a line that is scanning my body from the tip of my head and releases every muscle as it goes down. So releases the muscle of the scalp, of the forehead, and then around the eyebrows. Always take special care of my eyes here because we're in contact with so many screens. So relax your eyelids, let them fall naturally on your eyes. Don't force it. Um, you have the side of your head and the area around the ears sometimes. If you're wearing glasses or something, you can remove them, put them aside, relax that area as well. The back of the head and jaw. Make sure you're not clenching your teeth. Make sure your tongue is comfortable against the palate, and make sure that a little bit of air can come in between yours. Then, most importantly, make sure you're sitting in an upright position where your head, your neck, your back, everything is well aligned, and your legs are providing a very stable platform for your body. You can be on a chair, you can use a cushion. The trick with the cushion is that by lifting your buttocks a little bit, it sort of automatically aligns your spine. So if you don't own one, it's a very good addition for any practitioner. Relax your neck, your shoulders. Lots of tension in the shoulders, release that. You can visualize the muscles next. Then upper back, and then scan along your spine with your attention. Make sure that it's not holding left or right. If it is, imagine yourself relaxing and releasing the tension there. Your arms can fall comfortably in your lap. Keep them close so as not to create any tension in the chest. So the chest should remain soft and open. And you can relax your forearms as well and your hands and fingers. If you're holding controllers, don't apply any pressure and just have a very light grip. And then let's move our attention to one big muscle, the heart. The muscle that is also intelligent. It has neurons and it feels things. And it's responsible for a big chunk of your magnetic field. Now people feel you. So feel the heart and the fact that you are alive. It's doing its job all the time without ever taking notice. And let us feel a little bit of gratitude for this body of ours that keeps on breathing and goes on its cycle of sleep and wakefulness, and the heart beating as well, and the blood pumping everywhere. Then you can relax the belly area as well. Your legs, you can feel the life down in your legs, into your calves and feet and toes. You are alive completely from head to toes. And cultivate that a little bit as you breathe in and out. Feel the cycle of life moving inside your body. Sambhogakaya, the name of our Sangha, in Buddhism means the body of joy. It is the play of life, so you can feel life playing in your body. And as you ride your breath, as you ride your heartbeat and your blood and everything alive about you, deepen your meditation state each exhalation. Anytime we breathe out, we feel the life that is restful and the peace Every time we breathe in, we feel the life coming into us and renewing our energy. You are not a person or a body anymore. You are just life moving around and having a good time. And let us just feel alive like that until the bell rings again. If you catch yourself like you're starting to dream or to drift away, and you did not intend to do that, simply bring yourself back to the breath or to your heart gently and experience life once again. Experience the peace once again. Breathe deeply. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Or a couple more times. All right. How are we feeling? Let us stretch a little bit. Come back into the world.
I don't know if it was 10 minutes, but I feel like he was running really slowly. Maybe just in my head.
You caught me, Casper. Yeah, for some reason when I clicked the first time, it didn't. Probably I clicked badly, and we ran a little over 10 minutes actually. So you're also pretty good this go there.
I thought I broke through the matrix and could control time now, but maybe next time.
Next time, yeah. All right. So yes, today we keep on studying this book of the 37 Bodhisattva practices, and it's an interesting exercise for me so far because I basically work with very little material there, right? I'm working like 4 phrases at a time, and then have discussions, and we take it where it goes. But I find that it's another way to explore the entire path. It just takes us there. And so today we are at verses 8 and 9. So I will read them both and then go back to the first one as I always. The Buddha taught that the unendurable suffering of the lower realms is the fruit of unvirtuous actions. Therefore, to never act unvirtuously, even at the cost of one's life, is the practice of a bodhisattva. 9. Like dew on grass, the delights of the three worlds by their very nature evaporate in an instant. To strive for the supreme level of liberation, which never changes, is the practice of Bodhisattva. Right, so let's go back to the first part of the first. The Buddha taught that the unendurable suffering of the lower realms is the fruit of unvirtuous actions. I always like to tackle those words. What does unvirtuous mean from a Buddhist point of view? What is virtuous? What is non-virtuous? Who could answer that?
I guess to boil it down, unvirtuous is if you are not helping people or yourself, and virtuous is if you help people or yourself, like in different ways. Could be many ways.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean? Oh, yes, in the back, is it Tristan?
Yeah. Virtuous is like trying to serve the humankind in the universe instead of being like selfish. But sometimes you don't really know what is the best action because, like, for example, we might have like new studies about some things, and like, the things that you have been doing are actually bad. So I like to think about virtues is like, having like a car engine, but having it operate at the smoothest and the cleanest way as it can.
Mm-hmm.
But that might kind of miss the mark. But yeah, that's my own idea from the Mind Illuminated book. It also like kind of talks about that too, if anyone has read it.
I have not, but I would say that it relates pretty well to other teachings. Yes, Spicy?
Would virtuous actions be things that align with the Noble Eightfold Path?
That's pretty close. Well, you probably guys have heard of the tenets as well, like the 5 tenets of Buddhism. They do not lie, do not kill, stuff like that. Alright, so there's a funny thing in the book about this, because Dilgo Kiense, who did the commentary, says that this verse basically is for practitioners of low ability. Because of, if you're thinking of the Eightfold Path and the tenets, it's basically providing you like a how-to, just like the 10 Commandments. It's saying, don't do this, do that. You don't have to understand much to just apply this. So that's the sort of teachings that you would give to a very young child, or I guess to someone who's a bit of a moron and is not interested in knowing why you shouldn't do this and that, right? And so they would apply blindly those tenets, and then peace would be preserved. But then, as you guys were pointing out, there was also some element of, well, helping myself and helping others and helping humanity, being selfish or not. And it's all the same, because whether I understand the tenet or not, if it makes me act unselfishly, then the result will probably be the same. So it doesn't really matter. But Dilgo Kiense says, if you're working with somebody that doesn't know much about Buddhism, or you're just trying to teach them the way, start with the simple instructions. Basically. Now, what virtuous and unvirtuous truly means is, how am I? Well, virtuous would be sort of removing suffering from the world, and non-virtuous will be contributing suffering to the world in a way. So, for example, am I causing fear in others? Am I frustrating others? Am I feeding people drugs? And their addictions, and keeping them locked in their cycle? That would be pretty unvirtuous. Am I killing people for a living and training the next generation of killers? that's already unvirtuous, causes a lot of suffering, and it keeps the cycle turning. But then it's not necessarily being nice, it's not necessarily giving someone what they're asking for. For example, if you know they're really sad because they don't have money, and you want to help and you give them the money, but with it they do all kinds of unwholesome and inadequate things, then you're not necessarily helping them by giving what they desire. But if you work with them to make them see how they trap themselves in suffering bad habits, then maybe once they see their situation clearly, they get a better shot at snapping out of it. Yes, Ristal?
Yeah, just talking about this today, virtues and unvirtues. Like today, I was going to gym, and on the way when I was going to gym, there were two people, asking me from some money. And like in this kind of situation, the virtuous action would have been giving money. But then I asked, what would you use the money for? The people said, are we gonna go to the liquor store to buy some alcohol because we are out of alcohol? They were like super drunk. So like even the virtuous action in that sense could have been giving money, but then I chose not to because I don't want to feed their addictions.
Yes, and it's not all black and white, right? So I've been in this exact same situation. I would ask them, "Oh, you need some money. What do you need it for?" And then someone said, "Well, I'll be honest with you. I've had a shitty day. I really just wanted to buy myself a big bottle of beer and relax a little." And so it turned into a conversation. I said, "Well, tell me about your day." And they did a little bit. And then I said, it's not good for you drinking. They said, well, yes, I acknowledge that. It's just right now, I don't want to feed the habit, but right now I'm feeling really bad and everything. So I ended up giving them a little bit of money anyway, but saying, if you know better, use it well. So you don't necessarily need people to stop doing the behavior immediately, but you do want to sort of plant a seed or raise the level of consciousness a little bit at a moment where it might not be very high. And that is definitely better than just giving the money and not saying anything at all, or not trying to help at all. Sometimes also you need to give somebody what they want to bring them closer, to help them more. I'm thinking here, for example, of an estranged daughter or son who's having trouble, and then you offer food and a bed and to take care of them without judging, even though you pretty much disagree with everything that they're doing at this point. You will not say a word about it, and you will just open your door and provide a safe haven. So that's not being an enabler. Again, just because you're not fighting it doesn't mean you're enabling. You're actually providing a place for them to fall back on their feet and get back on track. So I'd say it's about helping others, but not in a foolish fashion. It's thinking about it. It's feeling what needs to be done, understanding the person that is in front of you, and trying to guess the intervention that they really need to get out of this mess. But I really liked the point that you brought up that said, well, science changes, and maybe right now it's acceptable to throw my chocolate wrapper in the street like it was when I was a child, as people had no environmental consciousness at all. And so people were not being evil throwing their wrappers in the street, they just didn't know any better. And but once you learn the fact, then if you're trying to do good, you should change your behavior. You should, recycle and be cleaner and everything. Well, here's the deal. While we don't have all the information, what is the most important thing is the intention. So if you are a fool, but you're not doing the right thing, but you do it with the best intentions in the world and you're sincere, that pretty much counts as a virtuous act in my book. It might have some bad consequences though, but from your perspective, it's virtuous. It's just that karmically, it's going to blow up in your face. You did not do the right ultimate thing that you should have done. So what we understand from this is that the view on Buddhism to really, really understand when we are operating from ego, when we are operating from the good of ourselves and the people around us. It is very important to be acutely aware of this, to really understand what kind of effects we're having on the world and what kind of effects the world is having onto us. And I remember, I don't know, like 25 years ago, maybe even not that long ago, um, I would I would hear about energies and people, new age people talking about energies, and I was like, "What the heck is that thing? Energy? Are you kidding me? What is that invention?" And of course, some people really brought it over the top. Some straight believe in magical powers and all kinds of. And I guess the universe is magic in a way, but there are things that are just not possible, and some people believe in it anyway. So, but I would just put it all in the same bag. Think energy. What are you talking about? Go learn some science. And then I realized with time that I was the fool. I was the fool because if I walk into a room and I speak a sound, well, that's actual energy. It's traveling. It's bending the air and it's reaching the tympan of somebody that's listening to me on the other. And if I wave my hand very fast, I can make wind out of it. And if I'm in a really, really bad mood and I walk in a room full of happy people, there's a good chance that their mood will just go down for a while and that I might trash their party. So we have those non-visible forms of communicating not only with one another, but with nature. And I brought our electromagnetic field in the meditation today that's generated from the heart and the neurons of the heart for that reason as well. There are things that, without even looking at people, that you sort of read from them. Uh, a bit like a dog can go and, smell another dog from the traces he left behind. We sort of leave that energetic trace around us. And then another thing I thought is that even though energy might not be present, the traces of energy are always around us. So if you look at a piece of bent metal, the energy that bent the metal is not being applied right now, but the metal kept the shape. And by looking at the metal, you know what happened to it, don't you? And same thing for all the mechanical objects. And if you look at a house, right, and I'm talking about the North American house here that is made mostly of 2x4s and insulation material and gypsum wall or plaster, you can see that some of those planks, when they were screwed together, they were fighting. One wanted to get away and go right, and the other one wanted to go down because of gravity. But we put a screw there, which has provided another force, another energy, and we screwed that into place. And then we arrived with a gypsum panel, and we nailed that and screwed that into place as well, and another force solidified it. And in the end, it's a big card castle, right? Where everything is trying to twist and go away from one another, but we've locked it in place. It's very, very interesting to look at the world in that way, to understand energy, how it moves, how things fall apart, how things get put together. And we have Creek with us, who just joined us. Hello, Creek. How are you doing?
I'm well. Hi, everybody.
Am I mistaken, Creek, by remembering that you work manually with wood or stuff like that?
Yes, I'm a carpenter and an electrician.
Right, so you know what I'm talking about, eh? What I'm saying.
Yes, I was even going to add, there's a wonderful skill in where you check what is known as a board's bow. A bow and a board is how the tree has grown, and it gives it a kind of like the same as a bow in a bow and arrow. It gives it a bend. And so knowing this, you place boards in such a way that the bow over time is less likely to collapse. You point them inwards or outwards. In any case, it's just wonderful.
Geez, am I glad I've asked you that? That's the answer I was hoping for. Thank you. So, if you work with the material and their energy, yes, you start to understanding it. You start understanding that and how they evolve over time. But the thing is that we have that sort of energy in us as well, and an emotion and an understanding twists us in certain kinds of ways, and will have us manifest in the outer world in certain kinds of ways. And the way we manifest will twist other things around ourselves. Right? They say that our state of mind and whether we speak to a little house plant, a little green plant, can have an effect on its development. Definitely the way you treat your child or your pets will have an effect on how they develop. So all of that should be part of our considerations when we think about virtuous acts. One thing that I used to hate about Buddhism was that people spoke all softly. Because I was like, oh my God, they cannot be possibly that laid back, or maybe they're drinking too much of that tea. Something is wrong here. And then I realized that I was a pretty assertive kind of guy, right? And I realized that sometimes I caused fear in my environment just because I had strong opinion, and I caused confidence issues like this to people who were not convinced that what I was saying was true as much as I was. And oftentimes, I didn't try to speak like an authority, but that's how it was perceived, and so I could be perceived like a foolish authority. And so then you learn to listen a little bit more. You learn to assert a little bit less. And yes, you realize. I don't know if you guys have been fans of The Simpsons, but there is an episode that is quite famous because Michael Jackson participated into it, and in the episode he plays a mental patient who befriends Lisa, and it is not at all the depiction of Michael Jackson, big tough guy, but he speaks with that little voice that Michael Jackson had. And he explains in that episode that he used to speak normally, but when he used to speak softly, then people started to be friendlier, happier, that they spoke their mind more and they took their place more around him. And so he said, well, when I saw all the good that it did that I spoke soft like this, I decided to keep at it. And so it's pretty much The Simpsons that cured me of this foolish assumption that I was making about soft-spoken people in Buddhism. Yep, spicy.
It kind of reminds me of if you listen to some Dharma talks on YouTube, like the ones with Thich Nhat Hanh as an example. He speaks with like a very like soft but like purposeful voice, and like even just listening to that, if you're like doing dishes or cooking food or making your bed or whatever, just listening to like the way he like speaks the Dharma with his like calm voice, almost like gives like a air of mindfulness to yourself too, just from listening to it. And it's pretty incredible, especially when you talked about like the energy that one puts out and how that can affect others too.
Yes, and just to share an anecdote about that, you can hypnotize with your voice. That's how a lot of great practitioners of that craft do it, on top of using an object, having concentrate and relaxing you. You can hypnotize with your voice. And my first contact with that was a sales training that I received from a pharmaceutical company. And one point of the presentation skills was to use your voice as a presentation tool. And I thought I'd give it a go. So I gave a presentation and I said to everybody in the room, I said, well, my story begins softly and I will invite everyone to close their eyes. So people close their eyes. And then just like meditation, I made them relax a little bit and made them breathe. and then I would move into that mysterious plot. But then when I thought, now they must be the most relaxed that I went, I just slammed the desk with all my strength, made a big boom to wake.
Whoa.
And then I started speaking loud and brought the emphasis in my presentation in the more animated part. Well, guess what? Everybody jumped like 1 feet, 1 foot from their seat, and they all reacted as expected. Maybe one person in the entire room didn't do it. Everybody else was pretty much following the flow of the presentator. And well, whenever you speak, you are a presentator. Whenever you move in the world with your arms, and whenever you do a gesture, you are also impacting the world visibly. I don't know if you guys know the artist Alex Gray. Does that ring a bell to anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the
Mind
others, we
bending
should
stuff.
probably. Yeah, it's beautiful. We should probably post a link to that in the Discord. But Alex Gray likes to illustrate how it's like I would call it sacred art, what he does. And he likes to illustrate the invisible energy and the interconnection and the emptiness. I have no clue if he's a Buddhist or not, but certainly his heart connects with many of the Buddhist teachings. And it might be a good contemplation, a good thing to look at to sort of deepen your understanding about the impact that you have on the world. So moving from, okay, you're a low level practitioner, so just apply what I say without question, to become conscious of the impact that you have on the world everywhere. And one way is to think of your outputs. How do you output information in the world? So you have a voice. Sound is very potent. The military even developed weapons with sound. They can break rocks with sound. It's amazing. They use it for surgery as well. It's so potent and non-invasive. So that's one way. Another way is when I breathe out, I exhale something. So whatever I'm secreting in terms of liquids, excrement, tears, whatever, these are outputs that I'm having in the world as well. When I move my body around, I'm outputting something in the world. And then I guess the content of my thoughts I can write on a sheet of paper and send across the world, or I can write using a computer. So I can use my fingers and not even speak and pour myself out in the world. So try and think how you personally output yourself in the world. And then try to be on the receiving end of that. Imagine how you would feel receiving this in that format. And if you become conscious of all of this, if you become conscious of your own footprint on the world, then you will be on your way to discover what virtuous and non-virtuous actions are. Because you will see where you contribute to the problem and where you're part of the solution. And by no means is it white and black. This is levels of gray that you will discover, and the levels of gray will become clearer as your consciousness level rises. Yep, Spicy?
When you mentioned the black things aren't black and white, there's always a gray area. I have some history that within my upbringing that kind of relates to that I wanted to share and for some perspective.
Sure.
So when I grew up, I had a grandmother. She's still alive, and blessed be her heart, I'm going to be able to see her at the end of this month, and I'm really excited for that. But she told me one time, it was like in the late 2000s when the issue in California of gay marriage being legalized was a thing. And I remember I was young, and my mom, not my grandmother, but my mom was always like, "Oh, it's bad. It's bad. It's gross," And then my grandmother was like, "Well, she's like, well, there's a gray area, here. Some people may think it's wrong. Some people may think it's good, but just her mentioning that a gray area exists in all things. Over time, I began to see that more and more, And I noticed that there are a lot of people, including members of my own family, that look at things in a very black and white perspective. And I realize that how bad that is, and how that can like really like warp your worldview and the way you like look at things. Please pardon the sirens outside. But it just makes me think about why there's so many people out there that like look at things from that kind of perspective instead of looking at things from like that gray area in the middle.
Right.
Could be because they are projecting what they have inside or what they understand.
Well, people have been made parts of clans. Here's the thing, there are people that get arrested for a minor crime. Maybe they sold pot, or they were using whatever, and they got grabbed and they get brought into jail. And they were not necessarily racists or bad people or anything. But if it's a white man, the very first place that he's going to be offered to join will be sort of a Nazi gang. And to be part of the gang, he'll have to do something racist and bad. Because that's how he's going to be offered protection and how he's going to survive in jail. If it's their first time in jail, a lot of them would rather be part of a gang and not alone in there. So they affiliate. If it's a Mexican, he might join a Mexican gang. If it's, whatever, they even have religious groups too. But what I'm saying is that we're doing the exact same thing in real life outside of jail. We're basically telling our kids, this is the way you should think, and this is what's right, and this is what's wrong. And then we polarize ourselves into clans and factions. I don't like speaking about politics, but I was blown away by the polarization of America under the Trump administration. Right? It was really like the I don't know if the left or the right or what to call it, but for me it was the America fighting with itself, basically. America completely divided. And that's what you get when you operate from black and white. You get division. And we are striving for union. We are striving for oneness. So polarization and union cannot coexist. It's just impossible. It's tension versus integration. So I don't think that anybody human is fundamentally polarized. I think we are we are polarized by fear mostly. We're afraid to be alone. We want to belong to a group. We want to please the people that we love. And so out of the fear of losing all that, we polarize ourselves. But if we were given the opportunity of being around somebody that loves us, that does not judge us, and that will accept all of our shades of gray, wouldn't we rather live like that? Right. So for a lot of people, it's not even a possibility. They don't even know that this possibility exists. That they could be, let's say that they could be gay, but not always. Like, I don't know if that case even exists, but let's say a guy has been loving women all of his life, but then all of a sudden he goes to a place one night and he meets with a guy, and the guy thinks like him, and the guy is awesome, and they're having the time, and he starts to fall in love with a guy. Well, I could see him spending 3 years with that man and then falling in love with a woman, and I wouldn't call him bisexual, right? That's probably a sapiosexual type of thing where we fell in love with a mind and not with a gender. And that's a shade of gray. I find it so ridiculous, all of those things that I'm gay, I'm bi, we're just all humans, right? And we do weird stuff. Yeah, Bristol?
Yeah, usually this black and white is usually caused by people not really understanding. When it's like, there's more understanding, then the gray area just expands. Like, for example, like my parents are extremely Christian. So like, me talking about studying Buddhism is like, they see it as bad, but they have no clue what I'm like doing. Like this one time I was like doing a meditation and my father like burst into my into the room that I was living in back in the day. And then he was telling me like, oh, like demons are coming into you, and and like, you know, it's all bad to you. And then I asked him, yeah, like how do they like manifest into me, and like, you know, what happens, and like what am I doing? And he's like, oh, like, you know, then you chant mantras, and then you like, you know, like the demons come in, and it's like, okay, but what do I do? And it's like, well, you sit there, and then you. And then he didn't know what to say because he didn't even know what I was doing in the first place. So then I made him like look stupid in front of himself just by asking some simple questions and seeing, making him see like how ignorant he is in the first place. And then I just told him kind of like, you know, what is reading meditation and everything else.
Right. And was he open to it in the end?
They are still like, you know, really old-minded conservative people, so like they still think it's like something bad, but now they understand a little bit better.
Yeah. Do you have something that relates to that, Spicy?
I do. I was going to mention that it almost appears that people that operate with that black or white perspective, if they view things in a black lens and then somebody comes along with like a right lens and they view them as like a personal attack on themselves. It's like, if you're not with me, you're my enemy. It's like, well, but like he was explaining, like understanding like Bridges' division. I think that's what you said actually, or something along those lines. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say for that.
Yeah. So your experience, Risto, is pretty common, though. Even my own parents, when I started on this path, they were like, "Oh, are you joining a sect?" And I, at the same time, I was telling them, because I was starting to make quite a bit of money, and they were saying, "Well, are you going to give up on everything that you own, and you're going to shave, and you're going to join a sect, and you're going to walk away from your? Are you being manipulated and overpowered?" And they couldn't fathom that this was coming from within, and that I needed that, and that it made sense to me, and that I found it useful and beautiful. And but it's fine. People start from where they can, from where they are. Casper, you wanted to say something? Blend in the environment. Yeah, that's true. That's why camouflage was invented in nature, right? So you could blend in the environment and not attract attention much. And in a way, it's true. Even if you're deciding to be an entrepreneur because you have this really cool idea to save the environment, you will stand out, and people will try to cut your head. They want everything equalized. So if you're contributing to polarization, unvirtuous. And I'm surprised I had so much to say about these little two lines.
Sorry, could you read the 2 lines again?
So the Buddha taught that the unendurable suffering of the lower realms is the fruit of unvirtuous action. So I'm realizing I'm not even done with those 2 lines. So we spoke about the nature of what's virtuous and unvirtuous. Now, what is this unending suffering? From what we have discussed there, why would you think that to act unvirtuous brings suffering to ourselves?
I always thought that like suffering can be useful if you can learn from it. But if there is too much unnecessary suffering or suffering that you cannot learn from, then it's useless. So it's really what you bring with you at the end of the day from suffering that matters. And if you're not bringing anything back home with you, then you might as well have avoided that suffering.
Mm-hmm. Spicy?
Oh,
Right. Yep, Spicy?
when you mentioned or when you asked why people do acts that cause them to continue the cycle of suffering, it made me think of a quote. I think the Buddha said it, and it was like as an example, like holding on to anger is like holding on to a hot coal with the intention of hurting somebody else. And it just made me think of that, and I wanted to bring that to the attention.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, but what I'm asking is, how is it that performing non-virtuous action is causing us to suffer? And yes, Mr. Ressa?
So, living in South Africa, we're right now going through an energy crisis. Various power stations are either undergoing scheduled maintenance or undergoing unscheduled maintenance. And the country is suffering because of it. Businesses can't operate without alternative power generation means. And what we're also hearing at the same time is the neglect behind the one power company that's been running this. That billions of dollars have disappeared in spares that never arrived. A power station not too long ago, after being built for 20 years, exploded after 2 weeks. And besides other nuclear documents disappeared, and it's neglect, it's corruption, it's the acts of a few people wanting to make themselves rich, and they flaunt it. Boy, do they flaunt it. I'd love to go into it more, but the country's suffering because of it. And on top of that, politically speaking, we just had some local elections. Everyone's throwing their different spins on it to try and get themselves into power. Oh, it's the white people. Oh, it's the it's the Xhosas, it's the Zulus, it's the people coming from Zimbabwe taking their jobs. And there's so much division, there's so much tension, and everyone wants things to happen, but no one's doing it. I can't I shouldn't really be pointing that, oh, it's just that one person that's running the power grid and not doing anything. But I can definitely say I'm seeing suffering every single day from people who are trying to support their families, from not just my own business, but the people who work at my business who can't. It's quite maddening.
Right, but you are not the one who did the unvirtuous action in this case, right? So that guy that went away with the nuclear plans, or that went away with the millions, is he suffering right now, or is he on this little private island enjoying life in his millions?
He's probably on his private island while the rest are left to suffer.
Right. So that's the myth. That's what we believe. That's what we think it is. And that's a problem that we believe that, because somehow, somewhere in ourselves, it's like saying that crime will pay, and that he got away with it, and that maybe I could get away with that small things. People do more terrible things, without saying that it's going to be a justification for us and us personally in the future. It could be a justification for some of us in special occasions. To relate a little bit to that sort of story you were telling, I was aware of a deal that was made to buy, let's say, 10 ambulances from the States in another country years ago. And the ambulances were bid at like $90,000 US per ambulance. And then the first government worker said, well, I could authorize that. I need a little something. And so they cut something. It could have been the lettering on the truck. And that became what he got. They gave him as a cut. And then the next government worker said, well, I need at least 5% of that to authorize the budget and the buy-in. So I won't go into the entire story, but it went on and on to the point that the ambulance was stripped of its emergency lights, was stripped of its equipment, was stripped of pretty much everything. It was pretty much a regular car, in the end painted yellow, that the government bought for $90,000 US. So that is sad, and it goes to show that a simple act where you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to remove the lettering on the truck. What bad can that do? And I'm going to care for the people that really need it around me. Maybe that's your justification. Right? And so all of them did the little thing. All of them felt justified, and all of them ended up causing suffering, and in fact delivering inadequate vehicle for sick. And then something happened, and the corrupt government workers were all fired, and so they suffered as well because they participated in that kind of scheme. So then here you can see how it bit them back in the ass a little bit, and that's what karma is. But one thing that we don't speak about enough when we are speaking about karma in Buddhism is what it does to your mind. Even if nobody else knows, you know that you've been doing that, and you know that your morals are a little bit elastic now, and you might, if you think about it, probably you avoid thinking about it, right? Because it's painful. But if you think about it, it's difficult to look at yourself in the eyes and feel proud of what you've done. There's no justification, really. And so that's the first karmic imprint. If you do something like killing someone and nobody ever finds out, good luck getting rid of the memory of that. And that's how I think some people are made into serial killers, that they become obsessed with the memory. Either they want to live it again, or they want to get rid of it for forever. We don't all react the same about this. But whatever is done to us and whatever we do to others, the very first place that it's imprinted is in ourselves, in our emotions, in our mind. And that will be part of who we are afterwards. It's like the butterfly effect. There is nothing, no matter how small, that happens in the world that is inconsequent. I was having a chat with my father no later than yesterday. And he was telling me something beautiful. He was telling me, it always fascinated me that when a human being is born, the entire world moves around to provide a space for the human being to exist. And he was saying, I mean, literally, like I am occupying space right here. So the sky moves to allow me. The earth is supporting me. This entire universe created a little bit of place for me to exist, right? So that's how strong the karmic imprint in the phenomenal world. That's how strong our karmic imprint is. We move the world through our existence. And then at the same time, you could say, well, we're just a rainbow. We look solid, we look as if we're there in the sky and everything, but then in the end, neither the existence of the rainbow nor the existence of the earth change the nature of the sky or change the nature of space. Space is pretty much still there and untarnished. Right. So I guess I drifted a little bit here, but when we are doing unwholesome actions, if we are not clever enough to find out that it's unwholesome now, we will find out later. Just like I was when I was tossing my candy wrappers as a kid, and then I found out that I had contributed to destroy small portions of the earth. Right? And now, obviously, I don't want to do that because I know better. So that's the thing. Karma will always get back at you one way or another. And if you're lucky enough and you die before it gets you, well, maybe you won't be able to die so peacefully because you'll have regrets like that. Then. Or it could bite your family in the ass, or it could bite your neighborhood in the ass, or your country in the ass. It just depends when it ripens. Not all fruits reach ripeness in the same delays. It is the same with karma. Was looking at the Kennedys not long ago when what family karma, to get shot one after the other like that, to sort of share a mission. And I don't know who made the bad deal in that family, but a lot of them suffered as a consequence, and the nation suffered as well. Anyway, so I guess I'm done with those two lines now. Therefore, to never act unvirtuously, even at the cost of one's life, is the practice of so. Well, that's a strong statement, and I won't dwell on it. It's just that if you're truly conscious of your effect on the world, you won't be doing that stuff for fun, right? If you are a good person, and I think we are all good persons, so if we're connected with what is good in ourselves, yeah, well, none of our egos are. So if you're talking from an ego's point of view, the thing that craves and desires and kicks and screams like a little baby to get his way, that's pretty much not from where we want to operate. And I have big doubts that this could ever be good. But if you
Let's
reach
say
deeper,
we're all gray.
yeah. So, but it's important for me that we also agree that there is fundamental goodness and peacefulness buried within us, and that if we connect with it, then we have a compass to operate in the world. And that's how all decisions should come from. So what I'm saying is that if you're connected to that and you can gauge what's virtuous and non-virtuous, I don't think anybody of us is foolish enough to do it on purpose if they can help it otherwise. So we will start fading away and we'll start getting into better habits just from the consciousness. Of course, old habits die hard. Right? 9. Like dew on grass, the delights of the three worlds by their very nature evaporate in an instant. To strive for the supreme level of liberation which never changes is the practice of a Boddhisattva. So that day you walked into the store and you felt like having chocolate and you stole chocolate and you ate it. And man, was that chocolate good. It lasted 5 minutes. So since you were out of chocolate a few days afterwards, you were forced to steal another chocolate bar because you had no money. And you got caught, and now you have a criminal file. And you see how little lasted the satisfaction of stealing the chocolate versus your criminal file. Talk about bad choices, right? But we do a bunch of this for pleasure. It's the person that goes from away from their family to find some pleasure and comfort, and then ends up wrecking their marriage. It's the person that was just looking for some fun and that ends up addicted the next week and consuming more and more. Our quest for pleasure often takes us in very unwholesome directions. And at the very least, it makes you wake up with a headache the next day. So suffering almost always follows. It's just like the sun and the rain, they go round and round. But for some reason, pleasure seems to be more ephemeral than the imprint and the suffering that it can leave behind. We don't like, I think, to think about that or to talk about that our best moments, our happy moments, our passionate moments might be the most dangerous ones because we'd rather have them coming without experiencing the bad consequences. We don't conceive that our moments of peace, our moments of drinking tea alone quietly, our moments of boredom even, are the true moments of happiness. You know? We'd rather be ecstatic and jumping around, even on the cushion. People are like imagining the perfect world and they're traveling to wonderful waterfalls and creating dream worlds and everything. And then you get up and it's over. There are strange considerations. When I think about the VR world and how it will evolve and the augmented reality as well, I often think about that. That this is like happiness at the tip of your finger. You could be anywhere in the world at any time. It's not exactly the best tool to train us for contentment. And at the same time, there's something very beautiful, something that can connect us more to the world. So it's not that it's an evil machine, it's just that we need, again, to be conscious as we use it of what it can do and what it cannot do for us and how it can blow up in our face. Would anybody have an example of a time that they enjoyed themselves or that they saw someone enjoy themselves maybe a little bit too hard and it caught up with them? Can you see that around you? Are you conscious that pleasure sometimes causes problems? Yep, Disco?
Yeah, in my university course, there was a lot of people who really enjoyed gaming, and they would spend every living moment of their day trying to play games with their friends. Sometimes I would see them in class, at the back of the class, with their laptops pulled out, playing playing games on their computer, not paying any attention to the teacher at all. But eventually it caught up first year or second year or third year. It caught up with them and they had to drop out. They couldn't maintain both. So it's sad to see that sometimes this like what I would almost call addiction to video games made them completely change their lives just because they couldn't kick it. And they wanted to get rid of this addiction. They wanted to quit gaming, but they just couldn't. They always found it easier to fall back into this default mode of playing games to enjoy themselves. So they would chase the short-term happiness over the long-term goals that they set out for themselves.
Yeah. That's gonna feel unrelated, but when I lived in Ecuador, I coming from Canada, I was used to, I guess, eating in North America. We eat very badly, right? A lot of fast food, a lot of strong flavors. And so when I went to live to Ecuador, they had a cereal-based diet, seafood, a lot of things that I didn't care for, didn't eat. But even the sweets, that was the best. That was the big letdown for me. Is that even if I bought myself like a Nestle chocolate bar, well, since they are a chocolate producer, it's made with more cacao, and it tastes a little bit bitter and much less sweet. And in their soft drinks, they use a lot of artificial sweeteners as well, or cane sugar, which doesn't taste the same as the refined sugar that we are used to consume. So everything was like mild and tasteless in the beginning. I could not appreciate the food very well. And when I came back, it was absolutely the contrary. So I was now celebrating a cookie in Ecuador, and a very ordinary one, right? And when I came back to America and I bit into something sweet, I was like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. This is so sweet. This is so greasy, so salty. Everything was over the top, I felt. And I got I guess, the same experience with video games because when I was a kid, I played a little bit of video games. And I was one to sort of move with the controller to avoid the monsters or whatever, or to get into it with my friends. We would compete and we would get into it quite a lot. But then I recognized that I needed to invest my time differently in life, so I gave up gaming completely. And picked it up again after a few years on vacation and got into like a shoot 'em up, sort of a Call of Duty type of game. And oh my God, same thing, completely overwhelmed. There's so much stimulation in those games. I can see how it makes you an addict. Life is, when you walk out of this, is like when I came to Ecuador and ate a chocolate bar there, you feel it's boring. There's nothing that's going to stimulate you as much as those life and death experiences, especially when they're immersive. And it leaves you sort of in a bland state. It's strange because it relates to all kinds of addiction, whether it's gaming, but there are people that are addicted, for example, to rough sex. That's a weird addiction to have, but it makes them feel alive to have rough sex. If they don't get a punch in the face, they don't feel like it's real. Right? Or it's like taking that mega dose of drug because you cannot feel the small doses anymore. And we do the same thing with games. And we do the same thing with chocolate cookies, and we do the same thing with any addiction in general. So that is our quest for pleasure. We don't feel alive. We are, and we feel sad, and we feel tired, and we feel depressed about the state of the world. But instead of looking that right in the eye and say, geez, that's a shitty word, how can I change it? How can I, or how can I change myself to feel better with it or deal better? We just say, why don't I watch a show? Why don't I play a game? Why don't I smoke that joint? And then I'll be relaxed. So we're constantly running away from everything in our lives and diving into those ephemeral pleasures. Yep, Crystal?
Shouldn't the solution to the problem be more like the outside world should be more like explosive, more exciting? You go to the store, it's like bam, and then there's like a person running over there, and it's like someone punching into each other, and like life and death. Yeah.
Or they're describing augmented reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Augmented reality will take us there soon. What was the title of that series that I never remember, Julia, on Netflix?
Black Mirror.
Which one?
No,
The
memories
Alhambra,
from
souvenirs of Alhambra.
yeah, or memories of from Alhambra, something like that. It's a Korean series that's on Netflix. You should have a look at that. It basically projects us into an augmented reality game that happens like in the street of a Spanish city, and it gets a little bit too real actually. But the mental exercise is fun to think about. Um, Yeah, so yes, definitely that's where entertainment is going. They're gonna try to make our life more exciting and everything. It's funny because I'm designing right now with my teams xprevents.com, which is where we will advertise a bunch of events in VR and XR. It's gonna be awesome. Be really cool things to be doing there, and I'm a huge believer in that project. However, we're working on our branding, right? And I was saying, well, XPR Labs, this is us. We are the R&D guys and the lab rats, and we're a little bit funny and everything. So we went with like the mad scientist brand image for XPR Labs, as we felt it represented ourselves. But when we went for xprevents.com, I said, well, I need a manic depressive brand here. It's events. It cannot be just blah. It needs to be high over the top or very low, but I need to take you on a roller coaster ride if I'm offering you events or if I'm offering you entertainment in general. That's their mission to take you through ups and downs. That's what TV does. That's what the internet does increasingly as well, and those social media and those influencers. Can you see what influencers are doing? Bringing controversy, trying to trigger debates that are completely unnecessary and polarizing people as well, many of them. Or others are putting just a fake face of inclusiveness while they don't have any substance behind it. And the minute that they turn the camera off, they fight their entire crew. There's a lot of ego in entertainment and in that world, and it's a shame. But we respond to that like a flock of sheeps. So let us be conscious that when we flock and that when we run after pleasure, suffering most often ensues. Yes, Julian?
Sankey, do you think we human beings can ever learn or appreciate just the simple things, like the walk in the woods or the little flower outside your door?
This is what the path is about. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't mean to cut you. You want to add more? No? So yes, I believe we need to reframe our minds on the path here. To learn to look at a tree and go, wow. And one way is what I was describing earlier, to look at the energy and the thing that crafted that and why it developed it. Like if you cut a tree, you see all the rings and you can deduce if he had a tough year or a better year, or everything is there, the story of the world in a way, and the quantity of pollutants and the oxygen and whether the tree was sick, and all of that is encoded in there if you learn how to observe. And that's
or in a breath or in a heartbeat or
yes,
in an onion.
Especially in an onion. It will make you cry.
True.
But yeah, so that's for us to understand that we are overstimulating, overexposing, overreaching for those pleasures, and to learn to enjoy that Ecuadorian chocolate that is of a much softer flavor, but that is better for your health. And, right? And won't take you to those huge up and downs. Yeah. You have spicy?
It kind of makes me think of some of my previous experiences during the past several years. I didn't have like a lot of money, so I didn't really have like a lot of like resources to like go out and like pay for like experiences at places like theme parks or the movie theaters, or like going on shopping sprees at like the mall or something like that. Instead, what I would do is like go on hikes or like see different parts of my state, because in California there's like a lot of variety of nature. So you have like beaches, the desert, the mountains, grasslands, all this type of stuff that you can see. And I gained a lot of like I really enjoy just doing that, just being out in nature and just like experiencing like the different sights and sounds and stuff. And then like another time after that I had an opportunity to go to like a theme park, and it was just like incredibly overwhelming because like everything is like commodified. You have to wait like an hour to like get in line and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, like, this isn't worth it. Like, this isn't worth it at all. I'd rather just be like out in nature, just experiencing the sights and sounds of this wonderful world that we're in.
Right. But there's a question of habit as well. Like if you are addicted to video games and you play every day, your scale is somewhere else, right? It's like somebody who would go on different roller coaster rides and would be comparing them every week. Then when they're just on the ground and not in a roller coaster, there's a chance they would find it very boring. So we have to first allow ourselves to settle back. And one exercise that you can try, and it's very close to Zen Buddhism, is take a random moment in your day where you can afford to do that. Sit and make it a point of doing nothing. But when I mean nothing, is like don't think, don't if try to suppress everything, okay? And that's not a Buddhist practice; it's just an experiment. But try to suppress everything and to remain in nothingness for like 15 minutes or an hour. It will drive you nuts. You are so used to be stimulated. You are so used to stimulate yourself. I bet that when the game is off, the mind continues and keeps on going all over the place, right? So, and that's what you will experiment when you go on the chair and you're not in a guided meditation and there is no music and you just give yourself a good experience of the void. What you're going to experience is how crazy you are. That's what comes up. You know, because you will immediately notice that you have no handle on any of this. You don't control it at all. And what you will want to do is something, anything. You'll want to read, you'll want to move, you'll want to scratch, you'll want to talk, you'll want to think. Try it. And I would say that to being a sane person is to be able to do that. If you're able to sit in a chair in perfect nothingness and nothing arises, you are on your way to become a very strong practitioner. You are on your way of becoming a very sane person too. So have fun trying that and give me some feedback if you do it. Yeah.
Sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would be curious to try some
I do.
high level monks. I'm sure that they would have no trouble beating that world record at all, because the there's a Dzogchen practice where you basically stay in a cave for something like 2 or 3 weeks in completely in the dark, and yeah, you hallucinate and you get all kinds of manifestation because it's like putting you in a dream state, right? When you don't receive external stimulation, your mind starts and wants to fill that gap, so it becomes extremely creative. And that's sort of one of the tricks of Buddhism, is that your mind, when it's unoccupied, it has a creative force. It takes everything that it knows, and it starts patching them together to create new things. And it comes from the irrational point, and it's amazing. So yes, if you go into the sensory deprivation pod, your mind will start dreaming like that. And that's what they tell you, like, go with the dream in such a thing. But going with the dream won't do anything with your sanity. What I'm saying is do the exercise of suppress even the dream and see how long you can hold. Honestly, it's minutes. It's not 45 minutes. It's not 15 minutes. Might be 5, 10. And actually, when you nail it very, very good, you fall asleep instantly. Boom. Brain turns off. So, hey, we'll see what it does for you. Yeah, Mr. Rasselt, I think you had your hand in the air.
So we're talking about when you become overexposed to something, and now we're talking about the exact opposite, not like complete deprivation. So what's the gray area? If I enjoy hiking, when do I like hiking too much? Or if I enjoy running, when do I enjoy running too much? Is that possible? Do I completely then deprive myself of running? Or is it just about appreciating it while you do it?
Thank you for that question. It's a very good one. And it's going to be a very useful one also if you're wondering about.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Bye.
Oh, he's next.
You crushed him. It was too
I'm so
hard to
sorry.
question.
The last word I heard is very useful if.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
He's done. He's
That was
done.
the answer.
With all of these questions all the time.
Oh, here he is. Oh my god.
So this is what Nirvana's like.
Don't you like a good mystery? So you know what happened is that somebody sent me like a join request. I thought they wanted to come in, but actually I started downloading a 300 megabytes world. So. So I'm sorry about that. All right. So back to your question. The answer to this is that when it becomes sticky, when you find yourself thinking about.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Hey, have a great day.
Hey,
Hey,
take care.
So when you find yourself when you're not hiking, you find yourself thinking only about that, and you are starting to shop for hiking gears, and you're every time you get, and not only that, but you're at the second generation of hiking shoes that possess now, and you have the walking sticks, maybe 2 different colors, and you see when you're really into it, when it's starting to be something that that comes back to you effortlessly, then you can pretty much say that you're attached. And,
Gauge balance.
Yeah. So if you can enjoy something and let it go, that's the right balance. If you can look at a tree and find it beautiful and won't cry when you have to leave the tree, and then you can walk into a city and be equally appreciative of the city that you're looking at. You are free to have a preference, right? You can prefer nature over the city. But you should recognize that the city is doing something for humanity as well. So if you can sort of move through space like this and say, okay, there is value to everything, but I cannot take it to my grave, then you're living in sort of a balanced way. The minute that it becomes sticky and invades your mind, then that's the realm of passion, and passion burns. So the minute that you start being passionate about something, you're starting to burn yourself. And it doesn't really matter, because the only thing burning is the ego. So you might want to do a little bit of that as well, so that it learns its lesson. But it generally does a lot of suffering on that path for our friend the ego, because our non-ego cannot suffer. It's indestructible, and it's space-like. Yeah, Medlish? Oh, I thought you had your... No, that's an illusion. I'm sorry.
no.
Okay, because there's a piece of graphic that is sort of the color of your shirt in the back where I'm looking at it. It looks like you had
Okay, okay. You should change the shirt color next time.
Yeah. So the world of illusions, and that's sort of the point that is made in the second part of this verse, is that to strive for the supreme level of liberation, which never changes, is the practice of a bodhisattva. So to see that everything is passing and impermanent, and as Thich Nhat Hanh puts it, interexisting, that everything is depending on everything else. As long as you can perceive that, then you can have a little bit of appreciation for everything. You can remain a realist and not lose your balance as you stroll through the world. I guess that's it for those two verses today. So any questions or anything else you guys would like to share before we do our second little session?
I was wondering, how is it possible
Oh yeah,
to...
I'm sorry. I think I've been seeing a little hand moving forever, and Niala was
Sorry.
completely hidden behind Crystal. I'm sorry.
But Julia can ask
Go.
first, and then I'm gonna ask.
Okay,
I
well,
was
go ahead,
I was
Julia.
thinking about how come sometimes we get the karma of another person's actions. Like somebody does something that it seems unwholesome to you, and then you are like with a moral hangover for that person. Doesn't that happen?
Could you define moral hangover?
Like when you feel bad, like as if you have done something wrong, but it's not you. Something you have seen. Sometimes it happens that I see somebody like a corrupt politician, and I look at myself. Gosh, I feel bad. I feel bad for human race or for where humanity is.
What's wrong with that?
It's
You
not
should
me
feel
that that went stealing money from the people or something like that.
No, but you don't feel guilty. You feel empathy for the people that were abused, don't you? Unless you
I
feel
feel
guilty.
empathy, and I feel guilty for the person that did it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that if this is still happening in humanity, it's sort of our collective responsibility, right? If people still abuse one another, it's because we're tolerating it. Not you necessarily as a person, but as a race, we're allowing this to exist. And there is room to feel a little bit guilty about that, you know. So you start with the empathy because you see the abuse, and then you might have this thought of, man, I wish things could be different. I wish things didn't happen like that. I wish we were not so foolish. Because the fault that you see in others most often is in yourself, or could be in yourself if you lowered your level of consciousness a little bit. It's really easy to fall back to that. Really easy to serve ourselves first. So if you have empathy and consciousness, as Shokim Trungpa Rinpoche put it, I always like this, you have to walk this earth with a broken heart, but with the firm resolve of wanting to help other people. As my practice deepened, I cannot fathom how much more I've been crying, more than any time in my life. I have this growing sense of being brokenhearted, but I am brokenhearted by everything impermanent also. So I see a little bird sometimes, and I see the innocence of the bird, and I see it on his branch, and it's having a good time, or it's beautiful, whatever. I cry for that, and then after a while, I see a politician and the way that he abuses people, and I cry for that too. That's the broken heart that, you know, allows you to connect on a deeper level with everything around you. We need to remain sensitive. Enlightenment is not about shielding ourselves from emotions. On the contrary, it's about harmonizing ourselves with the emotion and living them and getting acquainted with them. The entire society is teaching us how to shield ourselves and how to protect and compete. We need less of that. And to be heartbroken is fine. To be joyful too. I think it's just part of our experience. Yeah, we are hypocritical about those things. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about old age. We don't really talk about sickness either. We're very hypocritical. We avoid that. It's much healthier to look at it straight and feel something. Then change can happen. Uh, Niala, finally, Niala, tell me.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have two questions. So we're talking about manifesting stuff, but is there
Yeah.
a way, for example, people think a lot, and sometimes when there's like, how do you say it, like a group of people, they can like I hear that if you meditate or like you're together with a group of people, you can manifest something easier or something like that. But the question is, what if you manifest something in your life that you actually like didn't want it to like manifest? Like, how can you break up those manifests? Because
Yeah,
some
well,
doesn't make sense.
partly.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know
it,
how to explain it.
well, no, but it's
Sometimes like
because if
things happen
are we talking
in
about
life
a
and you're like,
person,
what
an
did I
object?
manifest?
It depends what you have
Mm,
manifested.
Also, oopsie. It depends, like, it's not something usual. For example, let's say, I don't know if this is a part of manifesting or something. Like, let's say you think about something and you get it later on, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I got it, but I actually don't need it. Like, you just thought about it and it happens. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No? And like, you don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
this actually, but it happens. Like, does make sense? No? Okay, no. I thought it.
No, but
Yeah.
the thing about manifestation is that you are sort of creating a pipeline, a conduit for whatever it is that you are desiring. So let's say what you want is a Ferrari, and you start praying for a Ferrari and thinking about that all of the time, and you wear the T-shirt and the cap, and you talk about it with friends. Well, sooner or later you'll find at least part of a Ferrari, or you'll be taken to a show where you might buy one used. A Ferrari will find its way to you, and you will find a way to your Ferrari. It's like it makes both things move closer. So that's sort of how
I see.
manifestation works. And if you desire happiness, well, it's the same thing. If you make the main purpose of your life, the main priority of your life to be joyful, then you will read about it, you will hear about it, you will stick around people that are joyful, you will maybe you will practice laughter in the morning, maybe you will do some visualization, you will do some scrapbooking about it, you can do many, many activities. And guess what? Your level of joy will probably increase. So if at some point you want the contrary, well, you can do the contrary. First, you make a conscious decision, and then you put your heart behind it. And then it starts transforming your life. It's as simple as that. And if you do it in a group, well, of course, if there are 10 of us trying to get a Ferrari, we have 10 times more chances. So, yeah. So
Okay,
that's a.
yeah.
It's not really magic, right? It's just about creating favorable circumstances and accumulating the causes for the effect that we desire.
Okay. So because of the manifesting thing, I heard, for example, that if a group of people, if they meditate, they meditate for peace, for example, it's easier to like reach a statement, state of peace. Like it's easier to reach that place. Yeah. Anyway, my second question is about vivid dreams. Like, for example, sometimes like there's like I get like really vivid dreams where they're like a little bit like too realistic, and I want to ask like, what does Buddhism say about like vivid dreams? Like, is there anything, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, Buddhism says a lot. You should look up on the internet the yoga of dreams. There are entire practices dedicated to that. There are even I don't know if you guys have heard of meditation boxes, but the Tibetans use that. It's meant for you to meditate 24 hours a day. So instead of going to bed at night, you're basically put in a box with lots of comfortable fabric, and you remain in the sitting posture as you doze off and bring back. So you're basically flirting with the bardo, right between the wakeful state and the sleeping state, and that brings very vivid dreams and images. And it's first of all, I'm not an expert on it, but also it's a very large topic. So I would recommend a. Actually, you are on the Discord, Neala, right?
Yeah.
I'll send a book recommendation for you that could be a good introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you could post it in the group chats.
One thing that I wanted to say about manifestation also is that, let's say that you want peace, okay? Let's say that this is the thing you're trying to manifest. Well, of course, you could do it the way I was describing and become a big fanatic about peace. But that doesn't make you very peaceful, doesn't it? If you're, that's always what I have found ironical about going to manifest outside. You know, to manifest peacefully is that I will create conflicts with the entire earth so they can get into my peaceful ways. um, but yeah, so if you want peace, you know, you could just sit, think about the kind of peace that you would like to experience and the kind of peaceful being that you would like to become. Wait for this aspiration to really connect with your heart and connect with you emotionally. And then take the time to write it on a piece of paper. And then you can put it in your pocket, in your wallet, in your drawer. But what is important is that the aspiration is sincere and profound. And once you have done that, you will never forget that you have done it. You will never forget that you have aspired for it. The mental exercise that you will have done will have transformed your brain structure a little bit, your emotional structure a little bit. And softly, very, very softly, very peacefully, you will start moving in that direction unconsciously. That is another power of meditation, of manifestation there. That if you mobilize your entire being, it's even better if you mobilize your body on top of it and you do something as you are manifesting. It's like you're programming it into yourself. All right. So to make wholesome aspirations is something we can do every. Oh, let me close with that before we move into meditation. To have wholesome aspirations every morning of how we're going to help ourselves and help the world is a very good way of waking up. And to confess to ourselves at night how we lost it, the things we could have done better, the cookie that we really didn't want to eat but that we ate anyway. To take a few minutes to recognize that and renew our resolve at the end of each day is also a very good practice. So if you can incorporate that, if you were to do just this, you know, an aspiration in the morning, let's say, I don't know, 20 minutes of meditation or practicing being conscious at work, and then at night you would sort of evaluate what kind of day you delivered to the world. It would change you in very positive ways. All right, I'm gonna click the bell for real that time. So, and let's do a silent meditation. Actually, you know what? I just saw the hour, and I might ask you, Creek, would you like to come and lead a meditation for us instead?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Thank you. For those who don't know, Creek is an awesome instructor. He teaches, well, at night here in America, on Wednesdays mostly. And very, very good, nice instructor for meditation. Very good talks to have.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna say goodbye to all of you because I have to move into a meeting now. But it's been very nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Zenkai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Me too, actually. I
Thank
need
you.
to go
Okay.
sleep. I have tomorrow college. Yeah.
Have a good night.
Hi, Mocha.
You'll regret it missing Creek's
Hi, and
meditation.
good night.
You're missing.
Creek,
Bye.
you're good. I just
Nice
need to go to
evening.
sleep.
Be well,
Sleep
be
well.
well. Yes.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well.
Yo, what's up?
Before the meditation starts,
Okay, good
I
night.
do want to
Goodbye.
say I'm at a different location this week. I'm going to be house sitting for my boss, and he has a little dog who is suffering greatly that its family has gone. So if you hear a little dog in the background, sad, may it be a wonderful practice for you to show the depth at which other beings we share this world with feel. A wonderful practice to share compassion. So everybody, if you've never meditated before, no worries. We'll make this one simple. First, we'll start with everybody finding a wonderfully healthy and comfortable posture. If you're sat on a chair, oftentimes resting the feet on the floor, even crossing the legs in the chair if you're on a cushion, crossing the legs if that's uncomfortable for you, having one leg sticking out, or both is fine as well. Next, we want to make sure we sit our heart above the hips. You can find a comfortable position also in the way of tilting a little to the left or the right with the spine, finding something in the middle. Once you're there, gently close the eyes. And we're going to start by taking a gentle, wonderfully beautiful and mindful breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. As we breathe, you'll begin to notice the conditions that we maintain, those of stress, anxiety, anger, as we begin to become more present. How we maintain those begins to fall away, breathing in through the nose, cooling the mind, breathing out, relaxing the body. Being mindful to place wonderful awareness on the process of breathing. If we have any ideas, any wonderful imaginations, just allowing them to come within our awareness and replacing that awareness on the breath. You'll begin to hear a very sad puppy. If you'd like, you can share a smile with that moment. How often in our lives do we find ourselves left with the harvest, so to say, of our previous actions? By being mindful by finding the present moment. We can give ourselves wonderful understanding, beautiful patience. Remember, just observing, being full of the present moment allows stillness of the mind. Just observing. Alright, everybody, I apologize. May it bring you wonderful peace. Wherever you are, allow yourselves to gently, we've been sitting for some time, open the eyes. Take a moment to allow yourself back into the temple. The thinking mind to re-engage with the body. And as you do, whatever insights or wonderful peace you have found today, take time to have gratitude for that. So I'm gonna read the dedication. And as I do, as you leave, enjoy the present moment. Remember that you can take wonderful enlightenment anywhere you like, any moment. We dedicate all of the merit accrued today in this session for the greater enlightenment of not just ourselves, but all beings. May all beings be liberated from suffering. May all beings have wonderful wisdom. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Greek.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. This is my first session. I was just listening in for today.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Thank you. What a wonderful gift you have shared with us and yourself, my friend.
It's good to see you're still alive, Razat. I wasn't sure how that situation with your
That
boy was
was
gonna go
kinda
down.
nice.
So far it's going good. He doesn't work for us anymore.
Yeah.
Puts it bluntly. But we'll see how it goes. He
I
was
guess you
messaging
wanna-
us earlier, and then so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we're trying to help him out.
Even
This is
though I'm not in no way, shape, or form a Buddhist, never have been, still meditation is pretty nice.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Everybody is welcome. We have these sessions.